You know that, well, we have seen some episodes of Gavin Newsom in his new podcast, and the first thing that comes to mind is, of course, his rebranding. But now we have a clip, a very short clip of him interacting with Steve Bannon, in which we're going to see two things. First, his body language, here it goes.
Well, and I appreciate the notion of agency, that we're not bystanders in the world. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion of agency, I think, is important more broadly. And I think that goes to some of the issues around, victimization. And I see a lot of that, respectively, on the right, increasingly, even with Trump often approaching things from that sort of mindset.
What do you mean?
Okay, we saw some crazy body language in there, but there's another thing that we need to address. And they were talking about, at that moment, they were talking about tariffs. I'm going to try to edit this so we can see the body language much better. But there are two things that I want to mention about this episode. We're not going to watch the entire episode. It was an interesting conversation, especially because of all the points that Steve Bannon could make, which is what Gavin Newsom wants. He wants this, let's say, these figures of, let's say, the right to come on his show and be able to express themselves, so he can, I think that, I don't know who made the word, who mentioned the word, right-wash him. He wants to be kind of right-washed, because the left has been doing so many insane things that's why he's doing this. It's as simple as that. But before we talk about the concepts that they were talking about, we need to address this body language. I'm going to mute it and just going to show you this without any sound so you can see it for yourself. Okay, he is doing some crazy hand gesturing, and we have seen Gavin Newsom. You remember that when he was talking about the wildfires, that he was with this back and forth, doing this kind of dance when he was talking about something really tragic. Right now, he has a bit of limitations because he is sitting down. He's seated, but even seated, it's like you see, you notice that he is kind of active, and you know that we have this kind of let's say hand gestures, I call illustrators, that they support the things that we say. You try to emphasize, you try to add emphasis to your words. Your hands will do what is called illustrators to emphasize the meaning of your words. You say that something is big, you're gonna throw your hands around like this. If you say that something is high, you're gonna throw your hands in the air. You say that something is tiny, and you use your hands to, let's say, support your speech. But when I see this, I see that there's no correlation between what Gavin Newsom is saying and his gesture. And by the way, not going to lie, they are quite unique. As in, that sometimes you're watching people speaking with their hands, right? And you see that some gestures they repeat themselves. Okay, that you can see that from different people. It doesn't matter if you are a politician or not a politician, or you're from the left or the right. You kind of use the same hand gestures. But whatever Gavin Newsom was doing in here, I mean, this is quite unique. And you see that in 5 seconds, he has gone from just bumping his wrists. One thing that, okay, what was he saying when he was bumping his wrists?
It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future.
Is decisions, not conditions?
Decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future.
That determine our fate and future. That sounds nice. You know that it's even if he has destroyed California, the guy is hands down a great communicator. But the hand stuff, the hand gestures have nothing to do with what he's saying. There's no supporting there. It's kind of distracting. There are already many memes out there, but we are not going to address the memes. We need to address the body language. Why is he doing that? Does he have some kind of consultant in body language. I don't think so. I think that he's trying to act like a regular human being, and he's doing a very lousy job at that. Is then doing this like maracas movement, like the Cinco de Mayo. I don't know. It's and then he goes for the this gesture in front of him. I mean, let's watch until the end. We have maybe one illustrator here when he moves his hands to the sides. We have to know what is he saying at that moment.
I think is important more broadly.
More broadly, at that moment, maybe he uses this gesture. He almost uses the gesture to say more broadly. Okay, but he even kills the gesture. He doesn't go broadly with his hands, but he immediately goes for pointing with his both his index fingers, and then showing his palms like okay, let's pump up the brakes. All right, and in this case, he was talking about the issues about Donald Trump's victimization of Trump's own victimization and victimization of the public and the working class. Let me see. And of course, the victimization, and quote unquote, he does air quote unquotes. I see a lot of that, respectively, on the right, and he gestures with his left hand to his right side. So that is kind of an illustrator. That is kind of emphasizing his speech. But when we play this with sound again, we notice that it's kind of not supported, but really distracting.
It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion of agency, I think, is important more broadly. And I think that goes to some of the issues around, victimization. And I see a lot of that, respectively, on the right, increasingly, even with Trump often approaching things from that sort of mindset.
That I don't remember him using hands that much. Well, we haven't seen him on a podcast this much before, and the couple of things that we have seen with Charlie Kirk, I don't remember him doing this crazy hand movements. That would have gone viral. You can bet that. So maybe he is just nervous that he's doing this through the internet. That is not live. Okay, he's doing this through some kind of connection. He doesn't feel comfortable talking to a camera, which is strange because we know that he's a great communicator. Again, being a great communicator doesn't mean that you have morals and ethics. You can be a psycho and be a great communicator. It has nothing to do with that. And the other thing that I'm going to mention is what they were talking about, which is what really worries me about this rebranding of Gavin Newsom. And so many people can fall for this if you don't pay attention to what he's saying. I'm going to play the clip of Steve Bannon talking about, the working class and how Trump has, let's say, the right not to be a victim, but to point out the injustices that both him and the working class have been suffering.
What do you mean? What do you mean for Trump?
I think there's sort of the grievance narrative that comes from Trump.
Notice that in that moment, Steve Bannon was he didn't have his arms crossed, and he all of a sudden, after he asks the question, he crosses his arms. He was not very open for Gavin Newsom's answer, but
grievance narrative that comes from Trump. This notion there is sort of a victim.
Well, they did try to put him in prison for 300 years, right? They did try to bankrupt him.
Well,
if a guy had ever had a set of grievances, they did steal, according to us, and we're firm believers, the 2020 election.
That this is part of what I find nice. I'm gonna do my own quote unquote nice about this, which is a laid back conversation. They can have their differences, but they are dealing that even with just a pinch of humor. But even so, again, this is planned. they were talking about tariffs at this point, and Bannon had said that he was a tariff guy, and he was defending the approach of Trump to tariffs. We're gonna be talking about tariffs as well in a minute. But let's watch the clip up to the end, so we can make this point much better.
Which I think worked out better, that providentially that he was able to come back with that gap, because I think you're seeing a much more not just new and improved, but somebody that's much more in command of these decisions and really stepping up in a way that we could have never done before. But no, I don't think it's grievances. I think it's reality. I mean, they tried to. No one in American history has the system ever come after, and I think it's one of the problems with the Democrats. You got in a position of having to defend. Remember, I come from a working class Democratic family.
An old Kennedy Democratic family.
Kennedy Democrat. I was telling some people last night, I said, we didn't know any Republicans. We were Irish Catholic working class phone company firemen, Navy enlisted people. You didn't know any Republicans. They just weren't in your, we were in the South also, which is all, machine Democratic politics. So you didn't know anybody. You didn't know anybody then. And so to see what President Trump had to go through, and to see how we've actively changed the Republican Party to actually the working class party in this country. There was a poll done last spring that showed that we, as the Republican Party, are the working class party and viewed as such, and that President Trump's the leader of that working class party, and the Democrats have become both not just the Wall Street elitists, but also the kind of the credential class with the poor underneath it, of which we're now trying to obviously recruit not just the working poor, but actually the poor itself to join our broadening coalition.
This is the thing. This is the main topic that they were talking about at that time, about tariffs and how tariffs. That so just in case you are, we're gonna explain it very briefly. Is like if somebody imports, let's say, a bottle of wine from France that it costs $10 to sell it in the United States, and you impose 100% tariff on that bottle of wine, that is going to be double the price of the bottle of wine, and it's going to be $20 to sell it in the United States. So maybe you have a better chance for people that produce wine inside the United States to compete, because whatever comes from outside is going to be more expensive. So maybe the people who produce not only wine but other goods and are going to have a real chance of being able to, maybe people will stop buying things from abroad because they're going to become expensive. And that is the argument that so many Democrats say, that is a problem with tariffs because everything is going to be more expensive. Not everything, because the idea is to, the working class, the people in the United States, be able to produce, be able to really have a company or manufacturing company or a producing company that your goods can be sought after, that demand, or in this case, we could talk about wine. People maybe will consider your wine because it's not as expensive as whatever comes from abroad. So this in the medium term is going to help Americans because, you will have not only more companies producing these goods, you will have also not only producing these goods for internal demand, but also for exports. And also, you will have employees. You will employ Americans, and there's companies. So people with money, maybe somebody has money, and then at some point they decided, I'm going to just import the wine and sell it. That is cheaper. But right now, with the tariffs, that is not that much of a good idea. And maybe those people with money will invest in the internal economy. That is the idea behind this. That's what they were talking about. And that's why Newsom, this is important, was poking back. This is like he was pushing back. Okay, what you say about tariffs makes sense because Bannon was saying that he was a tariffs guy, that this is gonna fix the economy for so many people. This is gonna fix the economy for those who have been forgotten in America, for the working class. And I really don't know how long it's gonna take, but that is the principle behind the tariffs. And since Newsom cannot debate that part, okay, that makes sense. He goes for, yeah, but I have a problem with the narrative of being, there's a victimhood that the working class is a victim, and that Trump is a victim by himself. What I'm saying is that he's doing two things. Newsom is doing two things. He's very smart. The first thing is that he's allowing, like his guest, Steve Bannon, to speak broadly in these terms, okay, and openly about these terms. He's not debating. He's not really there's not an argumentation in this. There's not a debate in this. It's not conversation. But he makes sure to poke here and there with things that are fairly inconsequential. It's like, okay, I'm not just going to sit down here and just let you lead the conversation. I'm going to fight back in ways that are like, let's say, that are from a side, not confrontational. So it looks like to people who don't have a trained eye for this, it looks like he could be confronting Bannon in some ways, but for so many people, it would look like he's actually agreeing with Bannon. Only that has a few qualms about this. I have a few observations about this, and that's it. So Gavin Newsom doesn't want to come out as, okay, I'm just letting Bannon speak freely here. I'm going to do this very small pushback. In that very small pushback, and that very sleight of hand pushback, is to, not be so obvious. Not be so obvious with the right washing. I don't know. What he absolutely has to do is to tone down the crazy hands, and especially if he is interviewing with a camera, not person to person. But that's the thing that I'm afraid about Gavin Newsom in this regard. Not afraid of him, but afraid of people lose track of what he has done and who the guy is, because he's doing the right thing. I'm gonna give it to him. He's doing the right thing to whitewash his image, to make sure that he looks like a centrist. Or I'm willing to listen to all these opinions, and most importantly, he is letting Charlie Kirk or Steve Bannon speak their mind freely, so he takes notes of all their arguments, of all their opinions, and he makes sure, how can I use all this against them? He is going to use all this against them at some point. Maybe not against them personally, but he's going to craft the best responses to all these opinions from, these people on, let's say the right. That is the plan, and it's working perfectly. It's magnific. I have to say, this is really smart. But the thing is, do we really like Psycho going with this plan unchecked? No, and that's why I'm making these videos. Again, there are very small nuances to this, and I see so many people just dismissing. I see so many people just skipping them. Oh, this is at least a nice conversation. Yeah, those nice conversations can be dangerous. So again, I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. Remember to download my free 100 body language tips in the description of this video. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy. Much love and bliss.